Either let me do it my way, or I'm going back to the US tomorrow.
Mexico, 1948. A resignation letter was slammed onto a desk. George Harrer, the boss at the Rockefeller Foundation, hesitated. It looked like a typical office standoff. He sighed and eventually chose to compromise. Harrer had no idea that his split-second hesitation just saved 1 billion lives. The man who wrote that letter was Norman Borlaug. And frankly, he shouldn't have been there. Fate seemed to be playing a huge joke. Borlaug wasn't your typical lab coat scientist. He was a former varsity wrestler with massive shoulders and endless stamina. And his dream? To be a forest ranger. He wanted to hide in the woods and talk to trees, not grow food. But thanks to a lecture he walked into by accident, and after rejecting a high-paying offer from DuPont, everyone thought he was crazy to turn down that money. Fate dragged his wrestler into the Mexican desert. The research station in Mexico was hell. No electricity, no sanitation. And the rats? They were so bold they would crawl over his face while he slept. Any elite scientist would have quit in a week. But Borlaug was a wrestler. He treated the fields like a wrestling mat. They didn't even have a tractor. So, picture this. A future Nobel Prize winner, strapped into a harness, pulling a plow like an ox. It was his brute force, not his brain, that helped him survive the initial despair. Back to that resignation letter. Why was he so angry? Because Borlaug was impatient. He wanted results fast. He proposed a crazy idea, shuttle breeding. He wanted to grow wheat in the Central Highlands in summer, and then rush the seeds to the northern desert in winter. He wanted to squeeze 2 years of evolution into one. The textbooks said it was impossible. Experts said seeds needed to rest, and high-altitude wheat would die in the desert. But because Borlaug was stubborn and in a hurry, he broke the rules. A miracle happened. The wheat didn't die. Instead, the survivors mutated. They lost their sensitivity to sunlight and latitude. Simply because he wanted to save time, he accidentally created the world's first universal wheat, a super crop that could grow anywhere on Earth. But that wasn't enough. Borlaug realized that if the wheat grew too well, it got too tall, and the heavy heads would snap the stems. So, the wrestler decided to fight gravity. He introduced the Japanese Norin 10 gene, effectively compressing the wheat. He created a new monster wheat, short, squat, and muscular. It's still like a weightlifter, strong enough to hold massive heads of grain without falling over, while absorbing insane amount of fertilizer. The physical limits of agriculture were officially broken. You might ask, couldn't someone else have done it? No, only Borlaug shuttle breeding forced seeds between mountains and deserts, genetically erasing their geographic memory. He ignored the obsession with local adaptation to create a truly universal seed. Time was also the enemy. The population bomb had predicted the end by the 1970s. Traditional breeding took 10 years, but Borlaug forced evolution to move twice as fast. Without those saved years, South Asia would have starved. He didn't just find the key, he outran the Reaper. Flash forward to 1965. The predicted famine had arrived. India and Pakistan were on the brink. Borlaug had 35 trucks of his universal dwarf wheat ready to go, but God wasn't making it easy. First, the convoy got stuck in the famous riots in Los Angeles, blocked by burning streets. Then, just as the seeds reached the border, the Indo-Pakistani War broke out. Artillery sealed the border. But Borlaug didn't care about politics. He operated like a smuggler. He yelled at officials and forced the planning to happen during lulls in the shelling. The workers were literally planting the seeds of life while listening to the sound of cannons. The gamble paid off. The The harvest the next year was so massive that India ran out of bags. They had to store grain in schools and movie theaters. The famine was canceled. Years later, in 1970, the phone rang in the Mexican fields. His wife drove miles out to find him. "Norman, answer the phone. It's Stockholm. You won the Nobel Peace Prize." Borlaug didn't even look up from his wheat. He kept working. "Quit it," he grumbled. "It's a prank. Some guy is pulling my leg. I'm busy." His wife practically had to drag him to the car. Yuval Noah Harari proposed a famous idea in Sapiens. 10,000 years ago, humans didn't domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated humans. It trapped us on the land, forcing us to break our backs for survival. That slavery lasted for 10 millennia, until this wrestler, who wanted to be a forest ranger, showed up. Because of his stubbornness, his brute strength, and that one resignation letter that almost worked, humanity finally turned the tables. He was the man who truly tamed the wheat.